there are forces of change in the industry. They impact Detroit, they impact Michigan, they impact all of your companies, your educational institutions, your economic development agencies. It does not matter. They are coming at us. And they're not something where the sky is falling, but if they are ignored and we don't take a proactive path forward, then they become forces that impact us in a negative way, and we cannot afford to take the downward inflection point right at this time. So I want to introduce some people who live this every day, because I really don't know companies who experience those forces of change more than the suppliers. We all talk about the OEMs, they drive things, but the suppliers, 70% of the vehicle, 70% of the R&D comes from the suppliers. So I'm going to bring some people up to talk about that, and a person I have a lot of respect for and read and talk to frequently. So let me introduce some folks to you. Jill Drolley from Next Year Automotive, thank you for being here. Gary Grigowski from Team One Plastics. So Saginaw, Albion, Michigan, and then from the farthest point on the west side of the state, I think it's the farthest west supplier, Mark White from Shape Corporation. And then someone I know you all have read for many years, but Daniel and I have talked a lot, and Daniel's been really helpful in shaping the work of MichAuto for a long, long time. And so what better person to moderate a discussion like this than Daniel House from the Detroit News.
Well, there. Glenn is right. It is amazing the pace of change. I think it was Mary Barra a few years ago said that there would be more change in the next 5 years than the last 50. Everybody's heard that. Is it true? It certainly seems like it, feels like it to me. I've been covering this industry for 30 years all over the world, and it's amazing. And we have three panelists here, and with their Michigan-based companies are on the front lines of these changes, from tariffs, policy U-turns on EVs, the emergence of China as an industry powerhouse, skyrocketing gas prices thanks to the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, continually managing change, sometimes at top speed. We wanted to start to have each of you explain, just in a nutshell, what your companies do, where they are, et cetera. I'll start with you.
So good morning, everybody. My name is Jill Drolley. I'm the president of the U.S. division at Next Year Automotive. So Next Year is a global company, a leading supplier of steering and driveline systems. We've got global customers around the world, and here in the U.S., our main customers are General Motors, Stellantis, and Dana. We've got about 12,500 people, about 3,000 of those located in Saginaw, Michigan, so about 2.5 hours south of here. And we are proudly represented by the UAW with our hourly workforce. In Saginaw, Michigan, we have 4 plants. You can see the different plants listed there that make our steering and driveline components. And we've got a global footprint with 27 plants around the world. We are celebrating our 120th anniversary this year, actually in April. So really proud, and that history started as a company in Saginaw, Michigan. So very proud to be here. We've got $4.6 billion in revenue globally, and the U.S. is about 26% of that. So thank you.
My name is Gary Grigowski. I'm Vice President and founding co-owner of Team One Plastics. We're going to dial things now down about 2 orders of magnitude. We're a single plant. We're a product of the Albion Economic Development Corporation's incubator. We're a highly automated injection molder of mostly automotive parts, just a little bit of plumbing. And we specialize in precision and transparent parts. We do manage globally sourced tooling, which, that has an impact that we'll probably be talking about here. But you can see that we're a 7/24 highly automated operation with about 85 employees.
Great, thank you. Mark?
Good morning, everybody. My name is Mark White, and I am the CEO of a company called Shape Corp. And we are a 52-year-old privately owned company based in Grand Haven, Michigan. And we operate as a global automotive tier 1. We have 17 plants around the world, about 4,000 team members worldwide. Roughly 40% of those live, work here in the state of Michigan. And our specialty is really in crash management systems and lightweight body structures. And you can see in the graphic up here, we're also now moving into other diversified markets such as aerospace, defense, and robotics with some of our technologies. And we find that, you know, an interesting growth opportunity, but it also is helping our automotive competitiveness and also our team here in the state of Michigan, which I could touch on a little bit later if you'd like.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to frame the discussion a little bit around policy and how it's shaping the industry and driving the industry. The industry's been living with tariffs. They've been on, they've been off, they've been changed, they've been ruled unconstitutional by the Supreme Court. New ones have been put on. Can you give the group a sense here, some of whom I'm sure have a lot of experience with this themselves, on how tariffs are impacting the business, particularly the backing and forthing of. You kind of raised your eyes. Why don't you start with this?
Okay. So yeah, tariffs has been a wild ride. Certainly that's been a huge financial impact. I mean, it's been just a massive thing to even manage, right? As you mentioned, they change sometimes more than once a day. So having a lot of people working on it, and it's been a big cost to us. Fortunately for us as a tier one, we have been able to get relief from the OEMs on most of that cost. But at the same time, I would also give you a different perspective on tariffs. As a US-based company, one of the things that it has brought to us is opportunity. So we do have our customers looking for more US content. And so with that tariff, even though it's brought costs, it's also brought us some opportunity.
Gary?
Well, for us, two of the biggest areas that the tariff whipsawing up and down impacts are our primary processing equipment, which has lead times of 24, 26 weeks, and the dies that we manage and engineer for our customers that can take 12, 14, 16, 18 weeks. So we primarily build our dies in Michigan, Canada, and India. And so, you know, you can imagine what it's like when you have a supplier that went from a very low tariff to all of a sudden 50% in one day. And and this can happen in the middle of a program. And that becomes a very difficult conversation with our customer. The other thing is our injection molding equipment. Our industry, if you look at what's sitting on the ground, it's about 75% import. And if you look particularly at injection molding machines, which is our primary equipment, it's 90%. So it's not like there's this huge opportunity in the short term to shift it locally.
Right.
And that doesn't even kind of get into the soft costs of it. You know, we have technicians that are trained in a particular type of controller. We have spare parts that go across machines that we're familiar with, and you know, you can stock one part for 5 machines, that kind of thing. So the tariffs have been pretty tough in those two particular
Have you been
areas.
able to get any refunds?
Well, we think we will. The people we buy from are the importers of record, and we negotiated up front that, hey, if you get this back, we expect to get it back if you want to sell another machine here. And so last year we brought in one machine that had an IEEPA tariff of $46,000. We expect to get that back. We just ordered 3 new machines that have tariffs under Section 122, I think it is. And that was like $120,000, but that just got struck down. I don't know if they're going to appeal, but again, we let the person know they actually put it as a line item on our purchase order.
Hence the headwinds, yes.
Yes.
I mean, it's one thing after another. How are tariffs affecting you?
You know, they affect us like everyone else. It's disruptive, requires a lot of planning and a lot of monitoring and a lot of contingency plans that we build. You know, for us, we also look at it as opportunity. So I share what Joe was referring to. So, you know, short term, our customers are coming forward and helping us with some relief. But we have to have contingency plans documented with them that are actionable to reduce that, because that's not going to be a forever type of scenario. We also feel the impact on capital equipment. much of the capital equipment that we purchase for whether it's aluminum extrusion machines or die-cast machines or roll-form machines, those are not produced today in the United States. We're buying that equipment from Europe, we're buying that equipment from Asia, and we're feeling that impact as well.
Mm-hmm. You know, a few years ago we've been coming up here for years, but it was only a few years ago that the electric vehicle was going to be the vehicle of the future. It was inevitable. We were moving down. There was a lot of policy to support it, and now we've done a total 180 on electric vehicles. We have a regulatory system that is saying is promoting gas engines. I'm just kind of wondering how EVs have impacted the policy returns have impacted your business.
Me first again?
Oh, you're here.
So certainly Nexteer has made a lot of investment in the EV market. What I would tell you, we've certainly learned a lot as well. So, you know, we had equipment that was designed specifically for an EV model, and what we should have been doing is looking at how to design that so it was agnostic to whether it was a BEV or an ICE vehicle, and that's something we've learned. So we have taken some of that investment and been able to transition it, but at the same time there was some investment that was stranded. So it's been a real lesson learned for us in terms of how do we design our products and design our processes so that we can use them no matter what is happening in the market. So that's what we would take away from there.
Is it your sense, all of you, that you're trying to manage kind of above and beyond above the policy whipsaws that are going on? Because, I mean, you have a situation where you have emission targets that are basically unenforced now. I mean, look what's happened to Stellantis, and the revenge of the Hemi has just been amazing as they're bringing it back and putting it in everything they can think of, it seems like. What's happened with, how do you manage this whole policy maelstrom? Mark?
You know, I look at it that we can control what we can control, right? I can't control the policy. What I can control is how we as a company, you know, put strategies together and look for growth opportunities with all the disruption that's going on right now. So you were asking about EVs. You know, we operate around the world, so we're supplying EVs in China, we're supplying EVs in Europe, and when the North American you know, EV push was on, that represented a large opportunity for our company because these are heavier vehicles, and we're in the impact energy management business, so that means there's more need for energy absorption. So we saw really a proliferation of applications and opportunity, and we took advantage of that with some of our domestic customers here. Unfortunately, that didn't work out, right? We made heavy investments in Michigan, primarily, and it didn't work out. And you know, Jill, your comment I think is one of the lessons learned we had as well. We had some capital that was flexible, but we had too much dedicated capital. So now we're in a situation where we're pivoting. Customers are working with us to make that pivot, but that's our lesson learned: is try to be as flexible as we can be, and be agnostic to whether it's a hybrid, an electric. So you're not fixed in one spot.
But as we sit here today, do you think that electric vehicles are going to establish a bigger place in the U.S. marketplace, or are we going to be a market that is kind of stands alone around the world as being a pro-ICE market?
I mean, I personally don't think that we'll be able to just stand alone. I mean, I think right now there's an attempt at putting a fence around the United States, right? And I mean, that may last for a little while, but it's not. I mean, I mentioned yesterday, I've been to China, I've driven the vehicles. You know, there's amazing vehicles out there, and consumers will eventually want that. So I think that, you know, it's only a matter of time before EVs catch on. I mean, and certainly gas prices aren't helping, right? So anybody with an EV today is really happy that they have one. So I think, you know, one thing I was going to comment on is 5-10 years ago, as a tier 1 supplier, you know, you'd get a contract from an OEM, and the contract was 5, 7, 8 years, and life was good. You knew what you had volume, you made it every day. And now, I mean, like literally every year since COVID, there's been something, whether it's tariffs, whether it's, just massive inflation, the freight costs. There's so much volatility, and so volatility really is the new normal, and the business has to adapt and be very able to change. So whether it's EVs, whether it's hybrids, whether it's gas engines, we just need to be able to pivot quickly. That's what we've learned.
Do each of you think that Chinese EVs will be in the market in the United States within less than 5 years? Predictions.
5 years is
Too aggressive?
too aggressive, I think, my personal opinion.
Yeah,
Gary?
I hope they're not here in 5 years.
Mark?
I do. But I think it'll be with some partnerships.
It's interesting, since we've been sitting in here, the Detroit News just moved a headline that Senator Slotkin and Haley Stevens are backing legislation that would not allow Chinese vehicles in the U.S. from Canada or Mexico, even on a daily basis, meaning it's an owner that comes in, does something, goes to a hockey game, goes home, wouldn't be allowed in the United States under any circumstances. So the politics seem to be, there's two very different forces here, the political forces and kind of the inexorable economic forces. Do we think American consumers are going to demand these products, particularly given the price points that they're going to be sold at?
I'm a believer that market drives everything, right? I mean, so the consumer is what ultimately will drive, and eventually, the car makers are going to need to listen. I'm with Mark. I think it will be some form of partnership, but I mean, once people see what's out there and see the price points of what's out there, I think it's inevitable.
Do you think it'll be partnerships with traditional Detroit OEMs?
I hope so. I mean, I hope so. At the same time, we've seen things like Xiaomi and the MichAutos of the world, and they're very different. So, but I hope so.
Yeah, I would hope so as well. I'm probably less optimistic about that. I think there's a pride factor and a culture factor at play. Those partnerships may look a lot different with technology companies and other types of tech companies that are getting into the space. My opinion on the whole EV side would be also the consumers are going to dictate it. Ultimately, I think as an industry, and particularly here in the state of Michigan, we can't. Protectionism is a short-term strategy, in my opinion.
Right.
We need to be promoting innovation. We need to be promoting more R&D. We need to lead the world in advanced mobility technology. And putting up the moat and tariffs is a short-term step. My concern is that's going to stifle our long-term innovation. We need to compete with the best in the world. That's what we should be talking
Are there
about. How do we
barriers to
compete
that?
with the best in the world? Right?
Right. Are there barriers to that, achieving that innovation in Michigan?
Certainly.
What would they be?
Where would you like to start?
Wherever you would like.
Not invented here.
Well, exactly.
Well,
I think you have a lot of tech people being hired by the OEMs, and I've talked to people about this, and you have the collective eye roll when they get up and walk out of the room because they came from Apple or they came from wherever.
Right.
And what you see is a lot of these people going through it. General Motors, particularly at a very high level, is going through a lot of these tech executives, and there's a number of reasons for that. But I mean, it doesn't seem like they can stay and actually have an impact longer term. Mm-hmm. But what are the barriers to the innovation?
Well, I mean, there are systemic issues. We spent the day yesterday in this room talking about some of the systemic issues. By the way, you wrote a very compelling article in the Sunday News about some of the systemic issues. When we think about our talent pipeline, for example, when I think about the workforce at Shape Corp in 2040, look at the third grade and fourth grade reading proficiency in our state. That's a reflection of what the workforce is going to look like in 2040. Now, are we going to accept that as business leaders?
We appear to already be accepting it.
And that's wrong, right? As business leaders and as political leaders, we need to come together once and for all. It's a crisis, and we need to put a spotlight on that problem, and we need to solve that issue. And we can solve that issue. We know that we've benchmarked. We know there are benchmarks out there that we could look to. But that is just one example that, and I don't think that's a political issue. I think that's a state issue, and I think business leaders need to have a voice. We need to speak up. We need to be partnering with our legislature, and we need to solve that issue.
I just want to inject something here. You just opened the door. Yesterday, I was in the press room sitting with a couple of my colleagues, and there was a panel going on just like this, and it's on the screen. And one of our reporters, who's very good, who covers Lansing for us, looked at me and said, "Do these people know," she said, pointing to the screen, "how juvenile the legislature is? And their inability to get things done?" And she does it, lives it every day. I don't. And my first reaction to her was probably not. But that may be one of the biggest challenges here, is having the business challenges you're talking about be understood by the policymakers in Lansing. And the situation that what you're seeing today is what you're going to be living with, or your successors are going to be living with 20, 25 years from now.
Right. I think, Glenn, the work you're doing in MichAuto to define a priority agenda based on data and facts is a great first step. What we talked about yesterday, I think the consensus in the room was that we need to have an aligned strategy and vision for advanced manufacturing in the automotive sector for our state, and that's what MichAuto is working on. But can you imagine what we could do when we have that? Can you imagine having the CEOs of the auto companies? They should be in this room with the governor and the legislature and all of our industry leaders with, the top 3 or 4 priorities that we have as a state that are going to live out. I'll live one administration. They're going to stick. There's no reason why Michigan cannot be the advanced manufacturing hub of the world. No reason. Our universities, the number of engineers, the installed production base, the creativity that we have, the ingenuity that we have, the history, no reason. And we're getting in our own way.
Well, I was going to say, do you think the barrier is high-level management and strategy, or is it the raw inputs you're talking about, the human capital that you have, and the quality of that capital that you have to draw on?
Gary?
Yeah, anybody.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a little of both. Certainly you need cooperation from the highest levels of our government to come up with some type of a strategy. It can't be a shotgun approach. And I think that's what we're trying to accomplish here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would add, I've been with Nexteer for 33 years, so almost my entire career.
Oh, wow.
And, we're a 120-year-old company. So the foundation of our company is in Michigan, as many of the companies here have been. And Michigan can be a powerhouse, but what I have seen is I have watched that change to be China leading it, within our company. So China didn't even exist when my company was established, and now China has grown from nothing to, more than 35% of our company. And they're doing that with rapid innovation. They've put up plants in 11 months. So they do amazing things that we aren't doing here in Michigan any longer. So we have to figure out that recipe. And I think it is a combination of both. It is the quality of people coming in. We cannot accept what's happening in our education system today. But it also is policy. And how do we encourage that innovation, investment, to stay here in this state?
But can we do China? Can we be China? I mean, our people are not going to work 7 days a week,
No.
12 hours a day.
I don't think any of us wants to be China.
But my question is, how do you compete with that and not be that? And being that is not acceptable in this society or Western European society.
Right. I think you need to learn. We need to learn and take away what we can, and do it in a U.S. way, in a Michigan way. There's a lot of things that we can learn from them.
Jill and I were talking before the panel. We both operate businesses in China, and our China operation is the highest performing operation we have in our entire company. And when we went to China over 20 years ago, it was a technology transfer. We have a wholly owned company. We have 3 plants, and we have over 1,000 Chinese-shaped team members who love our culture, by the way. They love the culture of an American, Michigan-based company, and our turnover reflects that, and our retention reflects that, which I think is interesting. But when we went there, we said, oh, we can't bring any of our IP. We have to do it light, right? Technology light, and we've completely flipped that script. Now what we think about is we just placed an R&D center in China, and we have an R&D center here in Michigan. And we're learning from each other. We're learning from the Chinese. So we talk about, well, they're the enemy. In our company, they're a part of our company. Right. So our thought process, how do you learn from them? What do we learn? How do we take the best of what the Chinese are doing and try to bring that and apply that back into our business here to raise the water level and make us more competitive here in Michigan?
Do you worry about IP theft? Is that that could be an issue anywhere in the world?
No, so we used to. We have a large patent library. We spend a lot of time and effort, protecting designs and process and designs and patent. And again, I've evolved that thought process. Here's why. I go to the Shanghai Auto Show, or you go to the auto shows there. And interestingly, when you go to those auto shows, they have cutouts of the vehicle structure, unlike many other auto shows, because safety is something the Chinese OEMs are promoting, that they can build and produce a safe vehicle. So I get to see all this vehicle structure and the things that we do, and I see our patented designs all over these vehicles. We can't protect it. So we just have to come to the realization that what I can protect is know-how. I can keep know-how, process know-how, design know-how in-house. So we're not going to worry about the patent intellectual property component anymore, because it's already out there. Mm-hmm. I can't win that game. What I can win is innovation, keeping know-how, staying ahead, giving my customers a better solution faster, and that's what I'm learning from China. And so our thought process is embrace it. Learn. Let's learn and adapt.
But how do you square that with a political environment from both parties, frankly, in Washington, that are just anti-stop, protectionism? There are national security issues that are raised by our own Senator Slotkin. She's one of the leading voices in Washington.
And many of those are well placed. That's true. But we have to operate, as a global company, as a global business. Mm-hmm. So
have you? How do I put this? Are you more concerned about IP theft and things like that, has to do with China than you did in other parts of the world? Is it more of a problem with the Chinese?
I would say yes. The risk is higher. Mm-hmm. But think about here's another real-life example. We have a digital transformation strategy, right? We're implementing AI, and we're creating the infrastructure and the data pools and everything to allow us from initial customer contact to design all the way through the manufacturing process. Mm-hmm. That's the vision that we have, and we're actively working on that. Well, that's a global system, right? I can't cut my Chinese group division out of that, right?
Well, you can, but it's probably not very wise.
Right. So we're one network. We're one enterprise.
Right.
And what we're trying to do is really to utilize the capabilities of our Chinese team members to support more innovation, which supports more investment in the state of Michigan and allows our company to be more competitive and to grow and to create more jobs.
Which, if you're not growing, you're dying. Now, you mentioned AI. I'm curious how AI is affecting the business. I mean, that clearly would be another force of change facing the business. How's it affecting your business, Gary?
Well,
And are you using it? I'm assuming you are.
we're dabbling in it. At our size, if we had, large staffs of people where the hurdle and the cost of AI could be justified in how many people it could enhance and allow us to grow without adding more. But I have one of this, I have two of that, I have one of this. So for us, it's going to be a little bit longer road for implementation. It's of course baked into a lot of the things we're already using, vision systems. We do use it just on a day-to-day basis for customer correspondence and analysis. But for us directly not being a design responsible company, it's not as, I would say it's not as urgent a thing. Mm-hmm. But it's something we're always watching. We're very, besides being highly automated, we've developed all our own internal ERP software, et cetera. So, we're very tech-centered. So we're constantly evaluating how it could best serve what our goals are.
Right, absolutely. Jill, now you have, your company clearly is large enough, I'm sure it's using a lot of AI processes. You also pointed out you've got a union workforce. Mm-hmm. How does that mesh, and how do you think that will mesh going forward? I mean, is AI going to be a threat and automation a threat to jobs? Will it augment? Will it be a little bit of both, depending on what area of the business you're talking about?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely, I think, going to be a bit of both. I mean, AI is already helping us in terms of enhancing our manufacturing processes, in terms of giving us data and actionable things to do. I've always said we're a very data-rich company, but action-poor, because we just have so many pieces of data coming at us. So AI has really helped that. But from an automation perspective, certainly it is something that we've got to balance in terms of the union workforce. We need to be competitive, and the OEMs continue to demand competitiveness. So certainly as a UAW represented facility, it's more impactful to implement automation. So it's a tool. It's something that hasn't been received negatively yet by the UAW. So most of the automation we do is done for ergonomics or quality, so it ultimately does help the worker themselves. So so far it's been seen as a good. We don't have dark plants, so where there's no people. But what I will say about automation is it is also really enhancing the gap that we have in terms of skill set from a skilled trades perspective. We have lost in our U.S. business over 100 skilled trades in the last 2 years. Some of them because they're aging out, some of them to other businesses because it's such a highly competitive area. But that is an area that we have got to, as a state of Michigan and really the entire country, got to get our arms around, because AI and automation is only going to demand more of those types of skills for team members.
So skills trade shortage is real as far as you're concerned?
It's absolutely real.
AI is never going to tear down a die or fix a machine.
Good point. Good point. In the time we have left, I want to talk about something I think is important to everybody in this room, and that's the business climate in Michigan. You made reference to the piece I wrote and the numbers that are in that about it's been a steady decline in a lot of economic and educational indicators over a long period of time. So people don't maybe feel it's the old frog in the water type of analogy. Tell us from your perspective what Michigan's business climate is today, and if you could change one thing, what would it be? Mark?
I referenced it earlier. I would totally reform the public education system in this state for outcomes. We need talent pipeline long term in this state. We need to educate our children at a higher level, and that's my daughter's a teacher, so we have great teachers, but we need a system approach, and we need to look at root cause of these problems, and we don't need finger pointing, and we don't need necessarily tremendous amount of more funding, in my opinion. But we need to come together as a state. We need to educate our children. When I think about the skilled trades, we also see, you know, that certainly is an issue with retirement and such. But we take that also in our own hands. We have well-developed apprentice programs. We plan ahead. We develop our team members. But the point being is we have to have people with a capacity to learn.
Right.
They have to be curious. They have to have basic skills, right? And that's what I'm concerned about, is we're not preparing our young people with the basic skills so that they can come into a company like Shape and be developed.
And this is coming at a time where it's not the industrial economy as we know it.
Right.
It is a time of momentous change. You know, there were speakers at college graduation, some of whom were booed, you know, talking about this being the next industrial revolution. But whether you agree with Eric Schmidt or you don't, he's probably right. I mean, the impact of AI and automation on the workforce is probably going to be profound. Business climate, Michigan.
I would echo the school system and the education pipeline. Because if I take a look at it, so we of course had a lot of turnover in our, not turnover, age out in our maintenance department, which is really critical when you're highly automated. And we had some of our best successes reaching into the school system, trying to find people who had the things you're talking, you know, the curiosity, like to problem solve. Maybe they're don't have the desire or the means to go to college, but we would bring them in and send them through some of the local training, whether it be in hydraulics or tool building, and we did get some support from the state of Michigan with grants and to be able to do that, because it is a bit of an investment, especially for a smaller company. So between the talent pipeline and maybe some support for you know, to skill them up to the things specific to your industry, because you know, you could never really in the public schools, I think, teach these specific things. It's got to be a more generalized ability to learn, a curiosity, and a good problem-solving mentality.
Jill, take us home.
So definitely education, but also policy. Having a roadmap that is agnostic to which party, because we cannot have this, you know, constant, I'm a Republican, I'm a Democrat, and now the policy changes. For us, for next year, one of the things that's been challenging is we have 3,000 jobs in the state of Michigan. We want to keep 3,000 jobs, but keeping them isn't good enough. We've got to grow, you know, in order to qualify for anything. So having policies that really support business, whatever party you're at, and that's what we need, is we need this roadmap.
Great. Jill, thank you. Gary, thank you. And thank you, Mark.
Thank you.
Thank you all.